Alright coders, this little project is called Hangman. This is probably the most complicated one we've done so far. You know how to play Hangman. Basically, we're going to make a game where the player will have to guess the correct letters to spell the word that the program is thinking of. This is going to be a complicated one, so let's get started. We're going to use lists, we're going to use randomness, we're going to use if-thens, we're going to use repeat loops, we're going to use the stamp tool, we're going to use the pen tool. We're going to use motion and variables, and I think I said loops, maybe not loops, but we're going to use those too. Okay, so here we go. You can pick a backdrop if you want. Let's just pick this basketball one, sure, why not? And then we're going to add a sprite. I already got rid of the scratch cat guy. We just need someone that's basically talking to the player. Abby will be fine. We'll move her over here. And let's shrink her down to size 40 because the sprite's just kind of be in the way, but we do need something here that's going to be doing one of our functions. Okay, we're also going to need a sprite that does words on the screen. So you could do this with a variable and just have it show up on the screen. I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to teach you a new way to get text to appear on the screen. And I'm going to just get you started on this, and then I'm going to pause the video and you'll see. And you'll need to do the rest on your own. So choose a sprite, type in the word block, and that narrows it down to just this group of sprites that have alphabet letters on them. Pick block A, go to costumes, and we need to add a costume for all of the other letters as well. So choose a costume, type in block, and then pick B, and then again add a costume, type in block, pick C. Now I'm going to pause the video and add the rest of the letters, but before I do we need to rename these costumes. So right here where it says costume block C, change that to just say lowercase c, and on B change that to lowercase b, and on A change that to lowercase a. So you need to add all 26 letters, rename them just like that. I'm going to pause the video while you do that. Skipped ahead. I paused the recording while I added all those sprites in. I'm on my last one here, so I'm going to change it to Z. You will want to double check that all of these are right. So you have the costume name is right under the costume image and they match. That'll make switching the costumes a lot easier, believe me. We need to do something a little bit different though for the Hangman game, because you need to be able to show where the blanks are for the letters that haven't been guessed yet. So let's add the costume Z in one more time and convert that to a bitmap, and you'll see why. Switch to the eraser tool, and I'm just turning this into a dash looking thing. So back to the pen. That'll look like a pretty good dash. Okay, and let's give this one the costume name will just be a dash. So I'm using the minus sign symbol for that. Come back to the code. We have a sprite that'll control the questioning that asks for the letter to type in, and this sprite here is going to control the letters that appear on the screen. This one's a little bit too big. Let's change that to 50 and move it down here. So what we want to do is we need to, when the game first starts, it needs to think of a word. That's going to introduce something that we haven't used before. Clicked on variables here, and we need to add some variables. We're going to add one to start with. Actually, we're going to make one that's a list of the words that you can choose from. Because the point of Hangman is you never know what word to do. So we're going to make a list. So click this button right here that says make a list. And we're going to call this word list. And we're for all the sprites. And then there's different ways to do this. We're just going to add these in manually. So click the plus button, and you can type in a word and hit enter and type in more words. And you can make this list, I think 2,000, 5,000, however long you want it. I'm just going to think of some little first words that come to mind here and leave it at that. Make sure you don't have any blank ones on your list. So if I hit enter here, after the word snake, it makes number 8 here. But if you don't type something in here, that'll cause problems later. So make sure you don't have any empty ones by deleting any empty ones. Okay, you'll notice this word list is now on the screen. We can bring that up and add more to it or change things later on. I don't want it to appear there during the game though, so I'm going to uncheck this checkbox right here, and it makes it disappear. Okay, we need to add another variable in here. Variables, we need to add 4 variables. A variable is just something that the program uses to keep track of information. So click on Make Variable. We need to add 3. We need one called Word to Guess. That'll keep track of the one that it picked that we're trying to guess the letters for. We need guesses left, because if you take too long, then it's game over. And then word counter. We're going to use that as a loop just to go through the different words. You'll see how that one's used. Okay, we want to start with our sprite here for the little girl. We want an event here that when the green flag is clicked, we're going to just pick a word, make a variable out of the words on the list. So come back to variables. We're going to set, we need to set the one here that says word to guess. We want it to be picked randomly from this list. Okay, so here's the list of words. We want to pick one of these each time you run the green flag. So under the variables on the list section, you have one here that says item 1 of word list. So if you run that right now and click it, it'll do the word dog every time. If you change that to a 2, I'll change it to cat every time, because this code here looks at the word list and sets this variable word to guess to whatever number is in this box. So if you wanted to do it random, come over to operators, and instead of the number 2 there, pick number 1 through, pick random 1 through 10. And right now our list is 7 here. So you can change that to a 7, and every time you run this now, see where it says word to guess cat, banana, snake, goat, dog, chicken, gopher. Anytime you run this now, it will pick one of the words on your list and store it into this word to guess variable. I don't want to leave this to 1 to 7 though, because you and your program, you may make this list longer or shorter, and you don't want to have to keep track and change your code every time you do that. So under variables, there's actually a useful one here called length of word list. So drag that over. Right now if I tap it, it is 7. If I came over here and added an extra word, bear, oops, I don't want an empty one there, and I tap it now it's an 8. So this function here returns the length of your word list. So put that into your random function here, and then anytime you run this, it'll check to see, well, how long is this list? Well, and then if it's 8, it'll pick a number between 1 and 8. And if your word list is 50, then it'll pick one between 1 and 50. Okay, next thing we want to happen is an event. We need to tell, now that we've picked our word, we want some dashes to appear on the screen. So bring over here under event, broadcast, new message. We're going to call this one show dashes. Hit OK and switch to the, I just messed up. This code is actually supposed to be on Abby, so drag that over to Abby and then click back on block A, and we're going to get rid of that because that's all wrong. We wanted Abby to do this code. She's going to be the one that's talking. Sorry. Make sure you're on Abby when you put that in, otherwise just drag it over. Block A doesn't have any code right now. We want to start this one here that says when I receive show dashes. Okay, so when I receive show dashes, what we want to do is this little sprite here is going to make a bunch of dashes along the bottom of the screen for every letter that's in the word to guess. So first things first, let's do motion. When I receive show dashes, oh, I'm sorry. Go to your extensions and pick on the pen tool. And in the pen tool, you want an erase all here. Yeah, erase all. And then under motion, you want it to go, right now I've got it in a good spot, so I'm going to just drag over the go to XY block. And then I need to change a set of value to this variable. This one, not guesses left, change that to word counter. This is going to be a little thing we use to go letter by letter through the words. Okay, so we're going to set that to 0, and basically we want to put a dash on the screen for every letter that's in the word to guess. So that's going to be control issue. Repeat until operators. Drag over this one that says something equals 50. and we want to go back to variables. And I know I'm going really fast, but you can go back and rewatch this. Repeat until word counter equals. Now we want it to do this for every letter that's in the word to guess, but sometimes that changes. So right now it would be 6, but if we had the word cat in there, we only want 3 dashes. So you want to come to operators, and we know what variable that is. We just need to bring this block over here that says length of. Instead of apple, you're going to do length of, and then variables, word to guess. So it's going to, and then we need to change the word counter by 1. So you can see it's going to start at 0, and it's going to repeat until this loop, this variable here, is the same as word to guess. Word to guess right now is the word gopher. The length of the word gopher is 6, so it's going to do this 6 times. Okay, what we want to do is under looks, we want to switch costume. We're going to put this up here at the top actually. Switch costume to this dash sprite costume. And then under the pen tool, we're going to stamp. That basically will keep a copy of the sprite on the screen. And then under motion, change X by, and change that to 40. So what that should do is when the program runs, it takes all the words on the list, it picks one of them, it tells the dash is to show up. This will switch to the dash sprite, make sure the screen is blank, go to the starting spot, start a loop at 0, go through the loop, change it by 1, stamp, and then change X by 40. So it's going to stamp, move 40, stamp, move 40. So watch what happens. Okay, and see the word chicken has 7 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, the word chicken has C-H-I-C-K-E-N. Oh, there's a problem there. Oh, I know what needs to happen. Okay, debugging. The stamp and the change needs to be before you change the word counter. So there it is, C-H-I-C-K-E-N. And then actually under looks, we can hide our sprite after we're done, because we don't want that dash sprite just sitting there at the end. So now it's bear, now it's banana. So the number of dashes every time you hit the green flag will show up depending on how many letters long the word to guess is. Well, we need to take have the program take a letter guess from the player. So come back to the Abby sprite. This sprite picks the word from the word list and then tells the letter sprite to put the dashes on the screen. What we need to do now is do a countdown so the player has a certain number of guesses to do. We're going to set guesses left. And instead of starting at 0 and counting up, we're going to start at 10 and count down. And then under control, we want one here that says repeat until, because we're going to do this until you run out of guesses, and then it'll be game over. So repeat until, grab operators, this less than sign, something less than 50, drag that over. We want that to say guesses left is less than 1. So it'll, and then we're going to change guesses left by -1. So each time this loop runs, this variable, guesses left, will decrease by 1 until it's less than 1, then the program will stop. So you have 10 chances to guess all the letters in the word. Now what needs to happen in the repeat loop is that it needs to ask the player to type in a letter. That's under sensing, so click on sensing, and ask, so drag that over, and you're going to ask, what letter do you guess? Question mark, and wait. So the player is going to type in an answer, and that answer variable is going to be right here. I'm going to just drag that over because we're going to use that in a second. Come back to control, and basically we're going to see if the letter that they type in is the same as in the word to guess, then something's going to happen. If it's not, then something else is going to happen. So drag over this if hexagon then else block, and let me pause the video here for a second. Okay, so inside this code we need to take what the player typed in and see if it is in the word that's there to guess. So go to operators. We need to grab this one here that says apple contains A. This is exactly what we want to do. Right now, if you just test this one out, if it asks, does apple contain the letter A? And if you tap on that, it'll say true. And if you change that to a P, it'll say true. But if you change that to a Z, then it'll say false, because the word apple does not contain the letter Z. Okay, so what we want to do here is drag that into that if statement, come to variables. The variable we have is word to guess, and we need to check to see if it has what the player typed in. So the word is, drag the letter answer over here. So it's going to ask what letter do you guess, and say you type in the letter E. If the word to guess, which word to guess right here is the word bear at the moment, if bear contains the letter E, then that'll be true. So we're going to do an event here, and we're going to broadcast. Instead of show dashes, we want that letter sprite to do something else. We're going to call this one show letters. And if not, actually, you know how we changed the guesses by -1? If you guess it right, we actually don't want that to go down, right? So drag this code over here, bring this, and put that into this else statement. So it'll ask, what letter do you guess? If it contains the answer, then it'll broadcast show the letters. We'll get to that in a second. But if it doesn't contain that, then your number of guesses left will decrease by 1. So let's run that. The word that it chose is the word snake. I have 10 guesses left. So if I type in the letter T, that'll switch to a 9. If I type in the letter W, that'll switch to an 8. If I type in an S, that won't switch the number of guesses left. Now it broadcasted show letters, but that doesn't do anything. Let's go ahead and put that code in now. So stop the program, come over to the text sprite. I guess we could come up with a better name for this one. Let's call this one letters. This is the sprite full of letters. When this receives the one called show letters, what we want to do is, if we want to put the costume of the sprite stamped in the right spot over the dashes. So if I typed in the letter S, it would stamp an S right here. Now the easiest way to do that, instead of calculating where here's the X and here the Y is, we're going to just start here on the left and move through. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit tricky, but try to stay with me. If you get lost, that's okay. You can go back and rewatch it. We want to come to motion, and we're going to do basically the exact same thing that we did in this loop here, except instead of stamping a dash, we're going to stamp the actual letter onto the screen. So come back to motion and drag this go to, because every time we do this loop, we want it to go to the same spot. We can do the same -x starting point, and for the -y, let's make that maybe -100. We can change that. But that should be a little bit higher instead of way down here at the bottom. And then what we want to do is come to, variables. We're going to set, we need a loop to go through all the letters in the word and see if they match the one that was typed in. So that is our word counter variable. So come to word counter, set word counter to 0. We're going to do a repeat, so that's under control. Repeat until. We want this loop to repeat until we go through all the letters in the word. So we're going to do this operator =, and change that to, we want the variable that basically this loop to repeat until the word counter is the same as the length of the word to guess. So it's just this bit of code right here. I'm actually going to just duplicate this and drag that over. Hit the stop sign. So it'll repeat the word counter until it's gone through all the letters in the word. We're going to change the word counter by 1. So it's going to start at 0, then the very first thing it's going to do is going to change to 1, and the next time it'll change it to 2, and the next time it'll change it to 3. We need a if statement, so go to control. What we want to do is check to see if the letter we're looking at we're going to go letter by letter through here, S-N-A-K-E, see if any of those letters match what the player typed in. So we're going to come over to operators, grab this one that says letter 1 of apple. So let's test this out a little bit. Letter 1 of apple is A, letter 2 of apple is P, letter 3 of apple is P. If you change that to cow, letter 3 will now say W. And we need an equal sign, so that's right here under operators, equals. Put that in the hexagon. And we want to go through the whole word to guess letter by letter and see if any of the letters match what the player typed in. We know actually this is only going to run if it does, so we're just trying to find which one is the right one. So come to variables. The word counter is the one that we're going to use to go through it. So if letter word counter of word to guess equals, go to the sensing and drag over answer, then something needs to happen. So what this will do is this word counter is going to change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through the letters in the word snake. If we had the word cow, it would go through the letter 1, through the letter 2, letter 3, so C, O, W, and see if any of those match what the player typed in as the answer. So if you type in the letter E, it'll see, does letter 1 of the word to guess equal E? Nope. Does letter 2 of word to guess equal E? Nope. Does letter 3 of word to guess equal 3? Nope. Letter 4 equal E? Nope. 5 equal E? Yes. Then we want the E to show up on the screen. So we're going to need to do two things. Well, first, the pen tool, we're going to stamp this sprite onto the screen so it'll show up here. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Actually, let's run that and you can see what I'm talking about. But before we do, remember over here when we were putting the dashes on the screen, we had the X changed by 40. We need to do that here too. So change X by 40. That doesn't want to, we don't want that in the if statement though. Okay, so let me run this, you can see what's happening. So what letter do I guess? Let's guess T. That's not in there. Oh, the word is chicken this time. Oh, I see a problem already. Let's stop this code for a second. Do you see how it's asking, it's covering up the dashes? We don't want those dashes covered up. So let's change the dashes to -75. Let's change the letters to -50 and run that again. Okay, so the word is bear. Let's guess the letter T. All that's going to do is decrease our guesses. Y. Now let's do the letter E. Now the letter E will broadcast the show letters because the letter E is in the word to guess. And so this is going to repeat, go through this loop 4 times because it's 4 letters long. It's going to check letter 1. Is that an E? Nope. It's not going to stamp it because it's not, but it will move 40. Letter 2, is that an E? Yes. So it should stamp and then it'll move 40. Is letter 3 an E? Nope. So it'll just move 40. Letter 4 is the R. Is that an E? Nope. So it'll just move 40 again. But what is it going to be stamped on the screen? Well, it'll stamp whatever costume the sprite is currently looking at. So we should see a new dash appear right about here. There it is. Okay, so how do we change this letter sprite to put the correct, let's move her a little bit and hit the stop sign, to put the correct letter up on the screen? Well, do you remember how I had you go through and change all of those costume names? Go to looks and grab this one that says switch costume to, and you'll notice your only choices here for your costumes are those letters that we typed in. So letter A, letter B, letter C, here's your costume, A, B, C. So the name of the costume is actually the letter that we want to show up. So we're going to switch costume before you stamp it, and we're going to switch it to, what are we going to switch it to? If it's the letter E, we need to switch it to an E. Well, that's going to change every time, so we need the program to figure that out for us. And we do that by looking at this one right here that says letter blank of blank. So if it's the letter E, it needs to be letter 2 of the word to guess. Come and grab variables. Word to guess will go right here. Right now it'll switch it to letter 1 of word to guess, which would be a B. If we run that now, it'll put a B right here. Actually, it won't because it changed it. Let's do the word banana. We're going to put the letter A and it'll do 3 letters here on the screen. But what? Oh, let's not do A. Let's do N. There's 2 N's in here, so this should run. It's going to go through. It's going to find the letter N twice as it goes through here, and it'll switch to letter 1 of word to guess. It's going to put the letter B. Why did it do a B? Because that is the first letter. That's letter 1 of word to guess. We don't want letter 1. We want word counter. Because if it's the 3rd letter, we want it to pick the 3rd letter. Now let's try, let's hit the stop the program and run the green one again. There's the word chicken. If I did the letter C, it should show up twice. There it is. If I do H, I, K, N, and E. Okay. So basically what this code does is it repeats until the length of sets this variable word counter to 0, and it goes through every letter in the word, and it says if the letter matches the letter that was typed in, then stamp it to the screen. Well, first switch costume to that letter and then stamp it to the screen. If it doesn't match, and then it just changes X by 40. So let's run it again. That's why sometimes, like if I hit A here, it leaves a blank here and a blank here and a blank here. That's what's happening by this if statement here. Because it doesn't match the letter that was typed in, it skips this code and it just moves the X by 40. Okay, so that's, let me show you one more thing. You ought to come over here to the variables and uncheck these boxes here. Then the game gets a lot harder because you don't know what letter this actually is. Is this the word gopher? Is it banana? T-A-E-R. I'm guessing this was gopher. And that's how Hangman works. So my challenge for you is, right now the program, if we run it, if you guess it wrong, the game actually ends and it stops asking you. The challenge is put a message in here. When you guess it wrong so many times, have her tell you, sorry, you lose. And here's a challenge for you. Have her say the correct word is, put that up on the screen. You can do that with that variable word to guess. Or how could you change the code so that once you're done guessing, then it says game over, you won correctly. I'll give you a hint. That's going to be really hard the way we did this because the program is not keeping track of which letters have already been guessed. So I'm going to leave that up to you if you want to. Otherwise, you can just know that the player will know that when they see all the letters filled in, that they beat the game. Okay, good luck with that one. Have lots of fun. Type in some really fun words. See if your parents can beat your game or not.